Morning. A friend of mine and I, one of my best friends, and we've been friends since high school, and I were having a conversation about narcissistic, sociopathic men and how I seem to be a magnet for them and always have been. So she's just pointed out that nice guys never have ever really just come and asked me out. It's always a sociopath. It's always a narcissist, even when we were younger. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I kind of think it's funny because it's true. I'm sorry, it is true. So I have a lot of expertise in the matter, not from a psychological, schooling, degree, counseling, and I'm not doing that. It's me. I've gone through counseling. Counselors have helped me. But a lot of times they don't understand that some of us are magnets for people like that. We are. Some of us are just freaking magnets for sociopathic and psychopathic people who hone in on us. And it's something subconscious. And can you change it? Believe me, I have tried. But somehow, even when I was trying, it is something about how they hone in on us, and subconsciously I attract that a lot, and I've accepted it. It's just a big joke to me anymore. But I'm talking about this because this morning the first thing I read is literally this woman, a prize-winning journalist, writing basically advice for women about how she is so thankful for her narcissistic ex-husband that she spent more than 17 years of her life with, 17 years marriage. And she's thanking him for her being the person she is today. She's rebuilt herself after he shredded her and embarrassed her in their workplace where they worked together, and he announced that he was going to divorce her for another woman they worked with. And she is so distraught, apparently, as this happens after more than 17 years with this man, that for 3 years of her life, she's basically starving herself to death and miserable. Okay? And that's a normal thing. People in grief don't eat. They're upset. Okay, that part of it is normal. The fact that it went on for 3 years isn't exactly normal. But each of us cope with issues differently. But I would suggest that the real reason is because he had such complete control over her based on her own words. Her whole world revolved around him. There was no her. He had completely destroyed that she was constantly in his orbit, period. And there was nothing else. It was just about making him happy. And so I would argue that the fact that she wallowed away in this for more than 3 years, it really speaks volumes to how much damage he had done to her as a human being, as a person. But she goes on to say that eventually, 5 years later, she writes on a calendar to remind herself, today I started not loving you. You should have started not loving him the day he shit on you in public in front of everybody you worked with, everyone he worked with, and everyone she worked with. But he had destroyed who she was so much it took her that long. And it took her having to write it down. To remember that she had finally started not loving him. Just started. It wasn't that she was complete with that process yet. She had just started it years and years down the road. Me, the day I knew, 100%, no doubt, I started not loving that man. I started really having to cope with the fact that my grandfather had been a narcissistic pig to my grandmother. And I was now coping with that exact same narcissistic pig. And the irony is the narcissistic pig that made my grandmother's life a miserable hell is the narcissistic pig that told me to never tolerate it from a man ever. And so I was in a quandary of who I was in that moment. Was I going to go and kowtow to this narcissistic crazy asshole, or was I going to walk away? Okay. And the reason I tell you all of this is because of the fact that a lot of people, a lot of women especially, because it is a narcissists and sociopathic characteristics are considered alpha males to people like my grandfather. So generations ago, that's them, right? It's almost demanded of them to be that way, which is why I say, while psychologists and neurologists are arguing over whether or not hereditary or environmental issues create our personalities, I would argue that these particular personalities, unless they are born completely devoid of emotional connection themselves, I mean, born that way, like damaged brain coming out the womb, they are learned by observation in that foundation of the first 5 years that our personalities form. They have witnessed abuse or they have been abused. We know this now. Okay. And they do have some ability to feel, because my grandfather certainly had enough feeling to me to tell me that I could not be treated that way. What little feeling he had left, probably, he smothered me with it. So when I read this, I thought about so many of the women and men, some men, because I have a couple of male friends that had been in these situations, that don't have access to mental health help. They don't have the financial means. They don't have the proper insurance. We limit proper insurance often to 8 sessions, which is ridiculous. In this woman's case, she spent years in misery, and 8 sessions was not going to get her to the point where she recognized, today is the day I stop loving you. It took her years on her own to realize, to start not loving someone who had destroyed her. And she still isn't recovered. And why do I say she's still not recovered? Because she's thanking him for her rebuilding herself. That's the ultimate compliment to a narcissist or a sociopath. You're thanking him for destroying you. And you had to recover. He eats that up. A narcissist will eat that crap up. And let me explain why they eat that up. Because narcissists, what they do is they have to have everybody like them. And they will turn on and ooze on the charm. Okay? That's not the true narcissist. That's not the true face of the sociopath. They are very sweet and very nice and wonderful and giving, and they are perfect when they want something. And having been their object of desire on more than one occasion, I absolutely can tell you that that person is not the real person. The real person is the asshole that walked up to her and embarrassed her and humiliated her and destroyed her and expected her to revolve around him for 17 plus years. He didn't care about anything else but himself the entire damn time. And he broke her down into being the same person that he saw himself as the most important thing in everyone else's lives, and no one else matters. Some people have more than one of the traits, but they aren't really narcissists or sociopaths. Most people have a couple of traits that you could go, oh, sociopath. No. When they click, every box, and you're telling me that your entire world revolved around them. Run like hell. And acknowledge they never loved you. They destroyed you for their own benefit. That's where she's at. And I don't want anyone else to be in that position. And tomorrow's video is going to be a follow-up on this one, because I promise none of these will be more than 10 minutes anymore. But tomorrow's video is going to be for those of you that are normal, because I know a lot of normal people, and I'm going to tell you why you need to always be supportive, and you need to be honest with someone that you love, that you think they're in that relationship, because your honesty and your strength can save them 17 years of damage.